Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Sam Roberts Wrestling Podcast. Introducing your host from New York, here is Sam Roberts.
Shawn Michaels, who was on this podcast at this point over a year ago, I think the last time. But I asked Shawn the last time he was on this podcast about one more match and blah, blah, blah. And Shawn Michaels had a great answer on this podcast. And it was that he viewed his career as one long story. I mean, starting from AWA Midnight Rockers. But really, if we want to get into it, the Shawn Michaels of the Rockers. I mean, and if you think about it, he's right. It's one story. From the time that he was teaming with Marty Jannetty until the time that he lost at WrestleMania in his second match with The Undertaker. That is one story. You're talking about the guy who was in the Rockers, then the guy who turned on his partner, then the guy who won the Intercontinental title, then the guy who left Sensational Sherry behind, then the guy who brought on Diesel, then the guy that turned on Diesel, then the guy that Diesel helped because Sid turned on him, then the guy who needed to fulfill the boyhood dream, then the guy who had to go home, then the DX guy, then the guy who got injured, then the guy who returned with Triple H, then the guy who went at it with Jericho. Like, this is all one character. And that's very, very rare in wrestling. I think even Triple H, for example, I think it would be tough to tie Hunter Hearst Helmsley into Triple H. I think really the Triple H character that we know started in 97. You know, right around then. When Triple H started, he was still kind of had shades of Hunter Hearst Helmsley with the robes and everything, but he wasn't really Hunter Hearst Helmsley, the American Blue Blood anymore. Whereas Shawn, you can trace it back to the Rockers easily. The only other person I can think of that can do that is Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho, in everything that he's done, as much as everything has been so different, you can trace it back to the Lionheart in WCW. I think that's as far back as I can trace it. But you can go from Lionheart to the guy at Dominion for New Japan. And it's the same character. So, I mean, it's the same guy. He's evolved the same way Shawn Michaels did. And what Shawn said is the reason that it was artistic. Is one of the reasons why he didn't want to have another match. Number one, it was because he didn't think he could follow his match with The Undertaker. But number two is because that match with The Undertaker was the ultimate end to this amazing story. And I found myself agreeing with him. Interestingly enough, for the first time ever, this week, Shawn Michaels said that if everybody could accept that they were not going to get Mr. WrestleMania, they were not going to get the showstopper, right? That he may, under the right circumstances, come back for one dream match. And the names that he mentioned were Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles, and Mr. Wrestling Johnny Gargano. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that working in NXT has given this to us. That Shawn Michaels being down there as a trainer, it's reminded him how much he loves professional wrestling, how much he loves WWE. And I think that he does have a bit of a hunger for one more match, and I wouldn't be surprised. And knowing Shawn, I wouldn't be surprised if Shawn Michaels' one more match doesn't take place at WrestleMania. I wouldn't be surprised if Shawn Michaels' one last match goes down at TakeOver Brooklyn March. If maybe at the TakeOver before WrestleMania, we see Shawn Michaels in one more match. And if I had to predict right now, I don't think that we will see Shawn Michaels in a ring with AJ Styles. That's the match that I would probably want to see the most. I don't think that's the match that we're going to see. I don't think that we'll see Shawn Michaels in the ring with Daniel Bryan. As much as I would love to see that, I don't think so. I don't think we're going to see Shawn Michaels in a match with Johnny Gargano. If I had to predict right now, if I had to put my money on Shawn Michaels having just one more match right now, I would go back to the last time he had just one more match. And that was not in WWE. That was in his Texas Wrestling Association. And that was in a ladder match, and it was a street fight, but really the purpose was to put what he was doing on the map. I believe that Shawn Michaels will wrestle one more match. I believe that that match will happen at the TakeOver before WrestleMania 35. Yeah, 35 in Brooklyn. Not in August in Brooklyn. So they're going to do TakeOver Brooklyn in August, and then they're going back to the Barclays Center for another TakeOver before WrestleMania this year, because SummerSlam of this year and WrestleMania of next year are both going to be in New York. So they're doing TakeOver Brooklyn in August, and then they're going to do it again at the end of March, beginning of April, whatever the date is. I believe that at that TakeOver, the TakeOver before next year's WrestleMania, Shawn Michaels will go one-on-one with Tommaso Ciampa. And that will be Shawn Michaels' big return match. I believe that between now and then, Shawn Michaels will take on some kind of on-screen role. Maybe he will replace William Regal. Maybe he will work with William Regal. Maybe he'll take on a different role than William Regal. But I believe that Shawn Michaels will act as an NXT authority figure. He's already out in public about his work with NXT. He's on the posters for the WWE UK tournament as an NXT representative. It's Shawn Michaels and Triple H on those posters. I believe Shawn Michaels will become an NXT on-screen character, and I believe that Shawn Michaels will main event a TakeOver against Tommaso Ciampa. And I believe that that match will be a street fight, and I believe that that match will tear the house down. That is what I foresee for the future of Shawn Michaels. I believe it will be TakeOver before WrestleMania. I believe it will be against Ciampa. That's what I think. Some people are saying, no way Shawn Michaels does a TakeOver. Shawn Michaels works for NXT. Shawn Michaels cares about NXT. Shawn Michaels is passionate about NXT, right? This return match wouldn't be about getting Shawn Michaels over. This return match would be about getting what Shawn Michaels is working towards over. Shawn Michaels is working towards the future. Shawn Michaels is working towards NXT. Shawn Michaels would want to get NXT over. Shawn's not coming back for a run. He specifically said, I'll come back for a match. I'm not coming back for a series of matches. So he's not coming back to get himself over. He's not coming back for one more shot at glory. He's not coming back for another run. He's coming back for one more special match. That match has got to be a match that is amazing. It's got to be a match that has a great opponent. And it's got to be a match that puts over something, that puts over what he wants to put over. What does Shawn Michaels want to lend his legacy and credibility to? NXT, obviously. It's what he's doing with his life. That's what he's doing for work right now. He's training at NXT. Shawn, main events, TakeOver against Ciampa. Mark my words. Mark my words. Whether he knows it or not. And by the way, Ciampa wins and breaks everybody's heart. Ciampa beats Shawn Michaels. You'll see. We'll see. If Shawn pops up on NXT TV going forward, don't say I didn't warn you. That's all I'm saying. Don't say I didn't warn you. It says Gargano versus Michaels is the best match for Gargano before he goes to the main roster. He doesn't need it. He doesn't need it. Gargano versus Michaels wouldn't do anything for Gargano, to tell you the truth. He's already proven himself to be next level. It would just be good guy versus good guy. We love Gargano. We love Shawn Michaels. It would be an amazing match. Gargano's telling amazing stories and having amazing matches, right? Gargano and Michaels would not be an amazing story. It would just be an amazing match. Ciampa versus Michaels would be an amazing story because Ciampa would be ruining Shawn's comeback. Ciampa would be hurting somebody that we love so much. We want to see Shawn Michaels come back. We want to see him be successful. Ciampa wouldn't let that happen. That's the match. And that's what I believe will happen. Callum is saying, so Ciampa stays in NXT all the way till next TakeOver? Yeah. I mean, Sanity and the Authors of Pain aren't even being used. The main roster is full. The main roster doesn't need anybody. Main roster is just now figuring out Drew McIntyre and Andrade Cien Almas. They're just now figuring out those guys, okay? Give them time. There's no reason to rush. The minute anybody does well in NXT, people are like, put them on the main roster. Aleister Black, Velveteen Dream, Gargano, Ciampa, the entire Undisputed Era, Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, Bobby Fish, Roderick Strong, all of these guys, and guys that I haven't mentioned, all of them are main roster ready. All of them. But you've got to have an NXT roster. And you can't fill up the main roster with guys because there's a finite amount of spots. You know, Ciampa goes up to the main roster, and you've still got Seth Rollins and Finn Balor and Kevin Owens and all of these guys going like, whoa, we haven't even achieved our full potential yet. It's not time for Ciampa to go to the main roster. It's time for Ciampa to shine at these takeover shows. And he's going to do that next April with Shawn Michaels. That's my prediction. Okay, thank you.